Hello, loves. I'm back for day 11, all wrinkly and tired in our daily December embodiment challenge. So I'm so curious if any of you have been keeping up close to daily. It's a lot. I know a lot more people have watched the first session and then the second session, about half, and then from there, kind of inner spotting a little bit. But I'm curious if you're someone who has watched either the majority of the sessions up to now or more than a couple. I'm so curious what your experience is and how these embodiments, witnessing them might help you. I know that when I was doing embodiment practices with other people, and we would do it in kind of like a circle setting, whether I was hosting or participating, that there was always some sort of medicine in the practice, whether or not those of us who were witnessing were actively embodying. There seemed to still be like a transference of some sort of healing or awareness or connection that was really meaningful. So I'm curious if you guys are feeling that as well. Theoretically, I sense that that would happen, but also it's such a strange and vulnerable thing to just choose. This is what matters to me. I want to share it. I'm going to try to share it in this way because so far I haven't been able to feel. What am I trying to say? I don't know. And basically, I was starting to talk about a generality, but then I started to go in a specific me experience. So I'm going to go into the specific me experience, which is it feels really scary to share in this way. It feels really vulnerable to express from certain parts of myself in a certain kind of way that, depending on who you are and your background, I just don't know how you're going to receive me at my practices. And that's scary. And I want to name that. I don't know if we'll do this today or if I just need to name it today, but something's asking me to share with you this book that I have been working towards working from. And at least up until today, I haven't gotten there yet, but it is called Polyvagal Exercises for Safety and Connection. And it is by Deb Dana. There are 50 client-centered practices in here. So I just opened to a great page. I think we're going to do this one today. So we did our first 10 days with essential art therapy exercises by Leah Guzman. So the first 10 episodes of this embodiment series of Daily December is all from this beautiful, wonderful, lovely book. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to purchase from her. If you want to join the Self-Care Garden on Patreon, our self-care for performers community, there are daily principles for the particular exercises in there that I translated into an embodiment practice. And yeah, and you can share your process if you want to. You can keep it private. There is also access in the Self-Care Garden to join a private Facebook group if you want to share bits and pieces of posts that include more than just comments, such as like images or video. If you want to start to practice sharing bravely in a kind of way that I've been practicing sharing bravely, but in the held container with other like-hearted artists. Because it's a vulnerable thing. If you're going to be a performing artist or a maker and sharer or creative expressionist, right? There is so much that comes along with the process and the practice. And it's so important that we understand for ourselves what safety, boundaries, and consent from our own psyches feels like. And so much of our training for many of us might also include bypassing your body's signals of safety, bypassing your psyche's experience of what would be grounding, orienting, and help you feel available to a role, and then pretend like you feel open, available, and ready from a state of readiness that you might not actually have. I find that for me, what that's done is it's created like a nervous system dysregulation that like perpetually runs on fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I go in and out of all of those. Sometimes the fight, flight, and the freeze happen at the same time. And then I go into like shutdown, collapse because they're both trying to go simultaneously. And I think that because the performing arts, and this isn't only performing arts, but it does happen in a microcosm there, but this happens in a lot of different scenarios in our lives. But when we have like a deadline and a lot of moving parts and a lot of people and something where an audience or a group is going to be purchasing their time with you to receive something, and what you're sharing is coming from just you, like you are the vessel through which the creativity is channeled, through which the experience is expressed. There's not like a distancing, even as in the performing arts we often do. It's often collaborative, not always. Sometimes there's solo works. I've done a lot of practice in my own that has centered around uh, solo work, which I think has a beauty. So here I am practicing my solo work, but in your witness. But this is more of like an integrating psychosomatic spiritual experience that we partake on together. If any of you are interested in diving deeper into this, I am scared to say this, but when I do this, it generally feels good, which is to let you know that I do this work. So I hold space for others. And what I am finding helps clarify why we come into connection together is really a focus on me finding safety and regulation in my own body and clarity around what it is I do and don't do, meaning that what am I wanting to express while trying to be like considerate as I express it. And you may relate to this too. I think this is a common thing that a lot of people face just in like colonial capitalist society, the patriarchal conditioning and whatnot, all bodies in different ways, right? We're socialized in different ways, but we have our own place in a system that likes to keep us quantifiable in certain ways, or maybe we like to feel ourselves quantifiable in certain ways. And truly, identity is a helpful and healthy thing to come into connection with, especially when you can feel like you have some agency and autonomy over who you are and not be just placed somewhere just because that's what's expected of you because of societal norms. Okay, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but also usually my tangents lead into something we work through in the practice. So just know that there is like a process I find in coming together, whether it's for myself or for if I'm holding space for someone else to move through something, that there's like let's see what's present, how you feeling. If you don't know how you're feeling, I will talk for a bit, pull things from the ethers, see what that brings up into the space between us or inside of your body. And then we hold space for the dynamic that happens either between us, if it's a between us thing, or if it's a very you thing, then I will ask you questions, invite you into deeper connection from a whole wealth of different practices that I have based on how I'm sort of tracking your nervous system, what I see as a former massage therapist, dance educator, and theater practitioner, like movements-based human, body-based human. A lot of my insights come from being able to read your body language, being able to sense into the energy and the content that your nervous system is sort of playing, and then speak directly to the undercurrents of maybe the unmet need. Well, that's what we find together. And we work together to speak with your body about what might be an underlying unmet need. And then from there, we help you find the support and resources externally and also internally for yourself that's going to help you feel like you have more ability to embody your body first, right? And then from there, once you feel safe enough to be in your body, we build safety into your life as well. Sometimes that looks like imagining safety in your life enough so that you can start to feel into your body. And sometimes that looks like releasing the outside world a little bit, finding safety in your body. and then finding clarity around how you do or don't engage with the outside world moving forward. We're going to read this exercise today from Polyvagal Exercises for Safety and Connection by Deb Dana. This exercise is from page 110. It's where it starts, and it's called From Glimmer to Glow. From glimmer to glow. I love it. This exercise builds on the skill of recognizing glimmers to create a more expansive and ventral vagal experience. And from my understanding, ventral vagal is sort of like where we're common regulated, where we're resourced enough to have that honest engagement, relationality. This is your feed and breed. This is your rest and digest. So when clients hold a glimmer in their awareness for a longer period of time, the experience deepens and the story that accompanies it comes to life. Ah, that's so beautiful. So the idea is that if you can hold a glimmer, and that's probably exactly what you think it is, like a glimmer of hope or a glimmer of joy or something that glimmers in your life, whatever that means to you. And I'm curious if you have any glimmers that are already coming to mind. If you do, feel free to jot them down, take note of them so you can come back to maybe a little written down list. If you forget, if you start feeling down, you can have like your little glimmer list, right? We'll see what the exercise is, but that's just a thought that comes up. So the background on this exercise is when you recognize the micro moment of a glimmer, you feel the spark of your ventral vagal system. Just as sparks can be used to ignite a fire, glimmers can be turned into the deeper experience of a glow. Oh, so lovely. With a glimmer, you pause just long enough to acknowledge that a ventral vagal moment is happening in the flow of your day. So that's so beautiful. You just pause and notice that's a glimmer. I feel safe, at ease, relational, connected. With a glow, stop and just celebrate the glimmer. We rush so much through our life, especially when we're in show mode or it's like some sort of a season for performance for us. There's a lot of racing and a lot of not slowing down, but this is an invitation to, when you feel, sense, see, hear, taste, experience something that feels like a little glimmer, just pause for a moment and like really let yourself be in the glow and feel what that would feel like if you allowed a celebration for yourself that, wow, I have this really beautiful moment. Take time to soak it in and give it deeper meaning. So let's be with ourselves there, because I'm feeling a little glimmer right now in this moment of like kind of hope. And I haven't been ready for hope for a long time. I don't think I've been ready for like a real nutritional content for my own nervous system outside of the very dysregulating experiences. It's so like I was looking for glows and glimmers in there, which I needed to do because I needed to handle some really messy stuff in my life. And part of that is included, I think, in our first 10 days of what we've been moving through in this series. I think that whether or not I go into actual story, you're able to see the patterns that I live through, which may or may not be similar to some of the patterns that you see in your own life or in your community. So we're going to turn this into an embodiment. And there are 4 steps and then some tips afterwards. So let's see what we get into. The steps start on page 111. Oh, what a lovely number. Okay, so it says, notice a glimmer and stop and let the experience fill you. Move beyond a few seconds and stay with the experience for half a minute or more. Give the glimmer time to become a glow. I am now finding a glimmer. I feel like my cheeks want to smile. It feels like I couldn't stop it if I tried. It feels a little like I want to be aware that this feels different. It feels a little like I feel a little nervous. Like, oh, is this allowed? Am I allowed to feel this? And then I kind of like want to put my hand right here. Oh, this is the part that I've been working through these last couple days where I could feel my heart, but I would feel strangled right here in my throat. And I would feel nervous and really protective of myself. But right now it feels like an excitement, but like I don't know if I'm allowed, but it feels like there's access to desire to like radiate in that space that I've been afraid to share from. So I just want to drink that in. Like, what if I can spend more time here? And I also, it's okay if I don't. Like, it's okay if this is just a glimmer. It's okay that it may or may not take time to really deepen and find its steadiness and a glow because it's nervous, because it's new, because it's uh temperature is a little like tepid. Like I feel nervous. Like I kind of want to embody that. Like and let it be okay. Like I just feel I feel nervous. Can I be Can I be in a glow? Can I be in a glimmer? Can I allow the glimmer, like the subtlety of it, to help me from this place, which is like a place of like collapse and fear or hiding? Can I go, oh, there's a glimmer here, and let the glimmer seep into the cells of my body? So we're just going to go with that, body and taste. Where I like want to close my eyes, but I want to open my eyes, but like I'm not quite ready to open my eyes. But now we're working with this left arm that has been a theme for me. This overworked, overfunctioned left arm. There's like a sad, like longing, like missing how I used to use it before the trauma. That I walked through in one of the other videos. I want to sit down and just be like, there's still glimmer and we're working into glow. Like it's kind of like a glimmer of hope or a glimmer of longing or a glimmer of like allowing the past to I feel this stretch right here where I was feeling like something had my throat. It feels like it's opening and stretching now, like in a positive way. Oh, and I feel like I'm just able to like scratch and open my eyes a little bit more. Like I've been feeling also in past exercises where I would do this and I would just feel like there's so much like gunk. Like, you know, when you're sick and you just have gunk in your eyes, but like the whole sockets used to be full of gunk and now it doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh wow. Like I still want to do this to be like, does it feel like there's the potential for not being sick? At neck throat area, is there potential to not be sick? I just want to be with that. Oh, I feel the sacrum. I have herniated discs in my lower back, L4, L5, and L5S1, lumbar 4, 5, sacral region. And I just want to spend time there. I feel like there's just this, in this glimmer, in this glow, there's this potential to like still take some of the shapes that I've taken before, but I don't feel like I feel nervous, but like okay. Like like I could be ready to engage with life. Like I could get ready to share, have a desire to. I don't feel like I'm forcing myself into connection or engagement, but I do still feel like it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be ready quite yet. But if I were to try, I don't think it would be hurtful. Like I wouldn't be hurting myself. I wouldn't be forcing myself to do something I don't want to do. It would just be, do you want to try? Okay, yes. And or no, I'm not ready. Okay, you don't have to be ready yet. Okay. That feels good too. Like there's a accessible consent as opposed to like frustrated that there's no consent and trying to demand consent, which is how I felt like I felt. Oh, wow. This feels really good. I'm just gonna be here for a little bit. Gosh, just opening a curtain out of that practice. Okay, that was step one. Step two, feel what happens as you move from connecting for a micro moment for a longer experience of taking in, which I did. So the micro moment was like, oh, nervous. And then the longer moment was like, oh, I can take the shape of fear, but have it be like kind of like excited and not actually terrified. So that felt really good to still be able to be in a lack of readiness right now, but like have an experience of safe enough where it was like exciting that I could possibly participate as opposed to feeling like I'm being forced to participate when I don't want to, or that I have to turn my back on it completely. And I'm like, it's like all or nothing, life or death. Now it feels like, oh, this could be fun. This looks like there's a safe enough. Oh, that left side, it just wants to rest again. I'm going to let that go. We're just going to let that go. Okay, that was step two. Step three, listen to the story that accompanies the glow. I think we've moved through that story. And some of it retains to like coming back into like a really nourishing, nurturing process with this recovery for this left side that used to engage in a different way before my trauma and kind of missing some of that. I don't know that I want to do all of that again the way I used to, but some of that. It's really nice. I think it's important to be able to things that my left side used to do before the trauma. For those of you who haven't seen that video, I think it was either therapeutic filmmaking or what's your story? I think. I'm not totally sure. Okay, maybe I'll leave the link in the description if I make it that far. So we'll see. So part of me wants to integrate that back in. And part of what this left side was really good at was like presentation and like offering hors d'oeuvres or services or showing myself or hello. And I've been really just like dead tired with that. Like I have had no resourcing to do that, even as in some ways I am working on my marketing and my branding and my color schemes and like what feels like a home inside of whether it's self-care for performers or pages in process, my other project for writing and sort of poetic stream of consciousness, somatic attunement practice. And then there's my personal stuff and finding the clarity of containers for those so that they do feel like they can have their own essence. And then I have my own like essence as well. But it can help clarify why I go to each space and let it be okay that like my relationship here with you for self-care for performers can be different than my relationship with pages in process. But I've really needed to take a durational amount of time to kind of unwind that for myself, because it felt like everything altogether was too gloppy. It like wasn't intentional enough for me to feel oriented, secure, and have a sense of like mental clarity. It felt like a rush of like I was trying to sift through too much all at once. So that felt flooding. That wasn't good. And it was bringing up a lot of past memories that were not healthy. And so there's a lot of intrusive thoughts and a lot of dark stuff that was coming up with that experience too, which is why I needed to create different compartments for different aspects of my persona or my desires in relationship and my outlet for practice. I'm finding for self-care for performers, it's really like somatic based, it's really body based, right? It's really therapeutic by design. It is intentional, hopefully more and more in a certain kind of direction. I utilize magical practice, and part of what I offer in self-care for performers feels like unhooking some of the ways in which I've been terrified of being honest about my magical practices. So releasing some of the fear and the grip around um, societal stuff that comes up sometimes, not all the time. And since I was little, I would just sort of like be really aware of maybe I could share this part of myself with this person, maybe I can't. And I would navigate in a really nuanced way and shift myself a lot, and like maybe try to talk about the same thing but in a different way over here so that they would understand. But it was exhausting. And I think it's a great tool to have to be able to code switch. And also at some point you're just tired of code switching all the time. And I think at least I am, and maybe you are too. You just have to, and if that's you, this is me. So I'm saying for me, like, you do what feels best for you. And if this feels in alignment, fantastic. But I'm feeling really like I'm just tired. I'm just tired, and I want to find some kind of persona that can be consistent regardless of the roles that I'm playing. And I can step into different roles, and I can utilize different facets of my strengths and personality and toolkits and resources to show up into that role. But the people I'm working with, like, I don't have to lie about who I am, even if like it's a performance role and like I step into a role that is embodying a character that is not all of who I am. That's different. That's like a intentional choice to embody an essence to play out a story arc, right? And I don't want to keep embodying different essences for my story arc in my life. Like, I want to embody my essence as myself and then move about the world. And so that my collaborators, if I do ever, and I don't know if I will, if I do ever start performing again, that like the people that I'm working with, I don't have to code switch for them and then code switch into my role and then come back out. And then like, it's just, that's exhausting. And that's how I've lived most of my life, which is in large part, like my body can't handle that. My psyche can't, it's too much gymnastics. Like, I'm just tired all the time. A lot of people pleasing, a lot of mental gymnastics, a lot of emotional compartmentalization and redirection of focus. And while some of those tools can be helpful overarching for like, I'm choosing this as a broad way to move about the world, to do that with every connection that I have in wildly different ways, putting the other person's comfort ahead of my own, not just taking it into consideration, because yeah, we do want to do that, but really finding what works for me and being considerate of others as best as I can, but also recognizing that sometimes that consideration of myself and someone else means that in order for us to both be considerate, we either have to be very boundaried or we have to even release the connection because there's not a way forward. We're just not in a space where there's access to compatibility in a healthy way, and really letting that be not only okay, but like healthy growth. There's so much potential in that if we let it not mean something bad about ourselves or the other person. Like that, we don't have to be a failure because we weren't able to make something work. We don't have to think that we are a terrible person because we weren't able to find a way to love someone as they were verbally assaulting us, or pretending that their jokes weren't rooted in some sort of truth that were hurting our soul. And I think I've certainly been someone to do those things, and I've been very aware that I have plenty of things that in my own sense of self I need to reconcile, or I have been since I was little. I would have a practice of like, oh wow, you did that, that wasn't cool, go sit with your grief, be with the what that means, and then coming back into connection. So I've done a lot of inner work. Maybe you have too. I think sometimes the sensitive souls, those of you who are connecting to this work, are likely more sensitive and intuitive and interested in subtleties. There's likely, at least in portion, a lot of your time that you've spent in reflection on yourself, your own actions, and how they may or may not have been impacting those around you. And I want to also invite to you, because depending on the path that you follow and how people speak about things in recovery or faith practices, sometimes the work stops there. But I really, really want to focus on the necessity of also needing to have that on the other end. That we need to be met in the same kind of consideration that we are sharing from, that there needs to be mutual respect, intention, clarity, engageability, where you're working in a way with someone who agrees and wants to work in the same way that you do, that you're building towards something, or that you are coming into connection for similar reasons. And if those things are wildly different and you're trying to get different things out of each other, you start to just be manipulative with one another, or you start to hide who you are and put forward a different facade to like keep a shield or a boundary. And that's not intimacy. It's a form of a dance, and maybe sometimes a necessary component for coping in a world where we don't have the tools and resources, or those that we're interacting with aren't available in certain ways. And we also maybe don't have availability or access to certain kinds of communication styles or self-worth or external support to help us through whatever it is that we would need in order to make the change that would feel best for us, authentic. Truly. And sometimes the change that feels best involves letting something go that you love. And sometimes it's for a period of time. And sometimes it's just taking space and coming back to repair. And sometimes it's letting it be okay if things don't reconcile, and coming to terms with the grief of that possibility, or the probability, or the clarity. Sorry. I like how it go dark. But this is one that's about glimmer to glow. And I'm like, and then also grieve with your losses. It's true though. Like you got to have both, even in our glimmer to glow. Okay. Listen to the story that accompanies the glow. From the glow, I can feel into the story of, even as I'm sad, even as I grieve, that I am able to access this undercurrent of myself that allows me to connect more truly into the space between my heart and my throat. And it feels so open right now. It still feels a little timid. It still feels a little like, but it feels so open. It feels so accessible. Last step 4. Yeah. And then we'll go into tips. Describe your experience of the glimmer and glow. Notice how the experience changes. For example, a particular glimmer moment might be described as a quick hit of happiness that brings a smile. And when you turn it into a glow, the experience feels like basking in the warmth of the sun while breathing a sigh of contentment. So I started with my glimmer and I was nervous, but it felt good to be nervous. And it felt like I had a potential for engaging in relationship while still not being ready, and like letting that be okay. Like my not readiness didn't mean that I had to go hide and seclude myself until I'm ready. Like I could be here still, like watching and engaging and like participating without feeling ready to really jump in. There doesn't have to be anything wrong with my lack of readiness. It can just be like, okay, I'm building self-confidence. I'm building clarity around how things work, so that when I get up, I feel ready. I feel ready to play, and know that I don't have to get it right, but that I can try. Okay, tips. Once your clients are skilled at noticing glimmers, Are you skilled at noticing glimmers yet? We just entered this, but maybe you've been working with it for a while. So if you have, I'd love to know, how has that skill building gone for you? And if you're new to it, or if you've been doing it for a while, I'm so curious, what are some of your glimmers? What do you notice? So introduce this exercise. Practice in your session so your clients get the feel of holding a glimmer in awareness for a longer length of time. What a lovely practice. Glow moments are still relatively short, up to a minute, which makes them accessible for most clients, but can, for some clients, activate a sympathetic or dorsal vagal survival response. Maybe that was me like shutting down. So maybe I stayed a little too long and that activated that. Work with your clients to increase the time they hold a moment in awareness and stay in the experience of ventral vagal deepening. At least from there, in my sort of dorsal vagal and a little bit of my dorsal vagal, meaning like hypoarousal, so like lower than your ventral vagal, which is that mid-tone, right? And then there's the higher sympathetic response, which is more the fight flight. I think I'm saying that right. You let me know if I'm not, or you won't let me know if you're not, because you might or might not know. I don't know. So, but I'm going to say goodbye to you. Today is Saturday. Tomorrow, well, I'm recording this on Saturday. I'm releasing this on Sunday at 9 a.m. So if you happen to watch this right away at 9 a.m., at 10 a.m., we will be meeting on Zoom, and there's a link for our self-care creative connection in the self-care garden. So if you'd like to join for that, we'll be doing one a month on the second Sunday of every month at 10 a.m. So if you'd like to come into connection for a little real-time community, self-care, creative practices, somatic care, exercises, then we'll practice together. See what blossoms from there. Okay, till next time. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow.